Well, hello everyone. I'm Ken with the Aviation Podcast, here to bring you some news, some stories, some half-hearted sarcasm, and maybe a joke or two. All of this revolving around our good friend, aviation. Now, at the Aviation Podcast, where do you think we're going to start? You guessed it, the FAA. Let's go ahead and take a look at the FAA's website and see what we got over here. Now, the FAA has been in the news recently quite a bit. We had the great NOTAM outage of 2023 earlier this year, which seemed to shut down the entire national airspace here in the United States because instead of having a 0, we had a 1, or vice versa. I'm not 100% sure. I know the FAA has requested that not one person be in charge of the NOTAMs, but now 2 people be in charge of the NOTAMs. Hopefully that helps. We've had some safety issues this year, quite a few actually. Some near misses, some issues where some planes were getting close to one another, enough to frighten, to scare a few people. And we want to take a look at the FAA. We want to take a look at where the FAA is going, what the FAA has in mind. This is the Aviation Podcast. If the FAA is going to watch us as much as they do, well then we think we should be watching them just as closely. So let's take a look here at some of we wanted to put this video out pretty quick. We have a lot of videos we want to get to, a lot of information. This video has essentially 2 topics we wanted to talk about, a little bit on the FAA and a little bit on some air shows going on this year. So we're going to put out a lot more videos, a lot more information. We just wanted to get this video out as there are many more to follow. So let's get right into it. FAA, we are over here at their website, and what do we typically do? But we look at the news. Now, one of the news articles that came up through the FAA is that the Biden-Harris administration announces that there is $20 million in a bipartisan infrastructure law funding to modernize 29 airport control towers across the United States. $20 million across 29 airport control towers. So that's, if my rudimentary math helps, I believe it's just under $1 million per airport. Now, that may be sufficient, although in the springtime of 2023, I'm guessing it's probably not sufficient, but it seems to be enough. $20 million to 29 different control towers to modernize, to update, to help these towers into this new time period we find ourselves in. The national airspace is changing rapidly, as the FAA has noted several times, and this is one of the things they are doing to help. We've had some near misses, some issues. Well, maybe some of this $20 million can go into helping the control towers. You know, if I had a new carpet, new paint, and a fresh coffee pot in the control tower, that'd probably be a great day for me. Any air traffic controllers out there who are watching, please comment. Let us know what you think about this $20 million being divided up amongst 29 airport control towers across the U.S. Do you think this is sufficient? Let us know. Now, let's compare these 2 stories. We have this one here, the $20 million for 29 airports. And one of the other stories on the FAA news reel they have is that they have, the title here is Quiet Skies, Universities to Research Way to Reduce Aviation Noise. Isn't it always the same? As soon as you get airplanes, you have a bunch of people who are upset at the airplane noise. There's several airports around the country who could attest to this. And actually one we'll get into here in a little bit. But it looks like the FAA has awarded, and if you look here in the news article, the FAA has awarded $19 million across 14 universities across the country as part of the Aviation Sustainability Center, or ACENT, as they're calling it. They're suggesting, and this is from Billy Nolan right here, says the research is the gateway to breakthroughs. With the best minds, we can reduce noise and fly with net zero emissions by 2050, says the acting FAA administrator, Billy Nolan. Their objective here is to reduce noise. Apparently, there's a lot of people who don't like airplane noise. I myself love airplane noise. I don't know a single person who doesn't like airplane noise, and I don't care to know that person. I'm sure a few of you out there are as excited about this new noise reduction as the rest of us are, right? Noise reduction. In fact, they gave $19 million to help with noise reduction. I hope it works. Now, it says here the acting FAA administrator, Billy Nolan. We're gonna circle back to that in just a moment. First, I wanted to touch. So speaking of the FAA, speaking of what they're doing, let's talk about 2023. Let's talk about the future of the national airspace and the FAA. We look over here at the FAA's 2024 budget submission. The FAA says here, the FAA's fiscal year of 2024 budget request of 19.8 billion. I had to make sure I had to write the right letter there, not million, but billion. 19.8 billion represents an increase of 4.1% from the fiscal year of 2023 enacted level. Fantastic. When combined with the 5 billion in advanced annual appropriations under the bipartisan infrastructure law, the total fiscal year of 2024 funding request for the FAA is $24.8 billion. $24.8 billion. And with some of that money, hopefully, we can reduce the noise of airplanes. Or we can modernize towers across the country with this $24.8 billion. Good grief. I don't know where this money is going, but I hope they are able to spend it wisely. I hope the acting administrator, Mr. Billy Nolan, takes every penny of that $24.8 billion and allocates it appropriately. Now, let's continue. Over here at simpleflying.com, and trust me, they're not a sponsor of the show. It just happens that they have a news article that was reasonable enough to put on the video today. The FAA says 0 close calls should happen again. 0 close calls. Interesting. Now, what would you think the FAA is going to do about this? These close calls going on. We have got close calls in Austin, close calls in JFK, close calls out west. We got a lot of close calls going around the country right now. What do you think the FAA is going to do about this? Well, we go through our article here, and essentially, The FAA's immediate actions are this. They put out a safety bulletin. A safety bulletin? Well, that should get everybody in line because of the bulletin. Let's hope it helps. Let's hope all of this is going in the right direction. We all want less risk. We all want to have, less near misses. I don't think there's a pilot out there who would suggest we need more near misses. Now, is this the corrective action we are looking for? Let us know down in the comments. Tell us, what do you think the FAA should do? What do you think the FAA has in mind going into the future? It's 2023, we got a lot of near misses. We got a NOTAM system that's apparently archaic. We've got 24, almost a solid $25 billion going to the FAA for the year of 2024. Let's hope they use it in the right ways. And if you think that there's less near misses, if you think there's less issues going on out there in the national airspace, that maybe not all the news articles, maybe not all the news stations are picking up on this, why don't you take a look over here at VAS Aviation. This is on YouTube now. I think you might be able to find your way over there. VAS Aviation. Take a look through some of their videos, and I promise you'll see that this airspace we all fly in, there's more than what we typically see on the news. Just because aviation has hit the top of the news cycle for the last month going, and now we've kind of tapered off on this news cycle, doesn't mean issues aren't still there. Doesn't mean we still don't have near misses going on. So, you get a moment, go over to VS Aviation. Again, they're not a sponsor of the show. We just find some very informative information over there. Now, with this FAA, one of the recent people who you may have seen in the news, Mr. Phil Washington. Mr. Phil Washington was running the Denver airport. Not long, a few months, 6 months-ish. And he was then nominated to run the FAA. Well, after what seemed to be some hurdles put in front of Mr. Washington. And you find this article over here at Aviation International News Online, or AIN, whatever this is, AINonline.com. Phil Washington, the CEO of the Denver airport, was an embattled nominee to begin the next FAA administration. He has withdrawn his nomination, or not his consideration, excuse me. He has withdrawn his consideration. Now, Mr. Washington did have a fairly lengthy career of, we'll call, management. A pretty good deal of management. And he probably has an amazing background in this management side of things. But what Mr. Washington didn't have is a lot of experience in aviation, which was kind of the point during the Senate hearings. Anyhow, Mr. Washington has since withdrawn his name from consideration, and it looks like we're still going to hang on to our good friend, Mr. Billy Nolan. And it's a shame, too, because it wasn't that long ago, March 22nd, Phil Washington earns the seal of approval from America's aviation workers. The International Brotherhood of Teamsters decided that they wanted to put their endorsement behind Mr. Washington. And about 3 days later, Mr. Washington withdrew his name. So, International Brotherhood of Teamsters, they were trying to back Mr. Washington, didn't seem to work out, and Mr. Washington withdrew his name. So, where do we stand, everybody? Jet pilots, helicopter pilots, balloon pilots, jump pilots, skydivers, gliders, everybody who uses the national airspace, who has to follow the rules of the FAAs. Who's our leader? Who's running the ship? Well, at the moment, that's going to be, like I said, our good friend, Mr. Billy Nolen. Mr. Billy Nolen has been the acting FAA administrator for a little time now. And at the moment, it looks like Mr. Nolen is going to continue to head the FAA. Now, whether he actually wants this position or not, his of his heart of hearts, of his personal decision, who really knows? It may be a big headache to him, or maybe he loves it. He seems to enjoy it, and it wasn't that long. He was at a FAA symposium that seemed to give a lot of information, it seemed to at least, on how the FAA is working with the aviation industry to promote safety. As I mentioned, the FAA has put out a safety bulletin to make sure everybody is following the rules. So, a safety bulletin, that should help, right? Let us know in the comments. Tell us, do you think this safety bulletin is the way to go? Do you think maybe we should have kept Mr. Phil Washington? Maybe he should have been the administrator instead of Mr. Billy Nolen. Billy Nolen's there now. So that's who we have. That's who we follow. Where is Mr. Billy Nolen taking us? Into the future. That's where he's taking us. All right. I don't want to be too much doom and gloom. I want to go ahead and transition over to our other topic, air shows. We talked a little bit about the FAA. Let's talk a little bit about air shows. I was going to break this up into 2 videos, but considering the information, we figured, you know what, let's go ahead and put it all out there. We have so many videos to follow this video that this video just needs to go out now. So let's go ahead and move over to the air shows. Now, the air show, one of the bigger air shows that just happened, Sun and Fun, here in the great state of Florida. Yes, that's right, YouTube. Another guy named Ken in Florida wants to talk to you about aviation. Fantastic. Sun and Fun just happened in Lakeland, Florida. Now, I myself, I missed out. I was unable to go. So all of you who did go, lucky you. However, I look at some of the news articles coming out of Sun and Fun, like over here at General Aviation News. I think some of you are familiar with General Aviation News. And we look at this news article here, published April 5th. And although there's a lot of great information in this article, what really drew my attention was down here at the bottom. We've got Wi-Fi, there's a cow cell on wheels over here. Looks like we've got some more information about Sun and Fun. I got the island, that was neat, or was supposed to be neat. Career fair there at Sun and Fun. Oh, look, this person got hired. Yay, good for you. E3 Aviation Association decided to have a big tent out there this year, which is great. Hey, We all want more aviators in the community, so we're never going to begrudge anybody who wants to join. We talked about brand ambassadors there, student passports. We got some Wish-style Iceman and Mavericks showed up to take some pictures. But really, what drew my attention was the comments at the bottom. Again, this is general aviation news. Comments at the bottom. They weren't great. They weren't great at all, actually. Some of the issues people were finding is, I think I read something about the prices of tickets were a little high. What do we got? $40 to $45 a person? Yikes. And $10 to $20 for parking. That's probably inflation, right? Yeah. And we've got other things like the porta potties didn't have hand sanitizer. The area where they had what they called the lake it was kind of far away. There was parking issues. There was minor things that seemed to build up. Sun and Fun has been around for years. There has been a ton of people who go to Sun and Fun each and every year. The great city of Lakeland has been taking on these patrons for a long time now. And this year, 2023, those who went to Sun and Fun and also commented on the general aviation news seemed to have less than stellar reactions to this year's air show. But myself, I hope they have another air show next year, and the the Sun and Fun, Sun and Fun is just a big thing that happens. I hope it goes on next year, and that next year's show is bigger and better than it was this year. Now let's move along a little bit. Let's go over to Reno. Yes, I know most of you are probably saying, well, Ken, what about Oshkosh? Yeah. Hold up. We'll get to Oshkosh. We're going to talk about Reno right now. Reno. Unfortunately, this is the last year. This is the last year at the Reno Air Races. You can thank the people of Reno, whoever is moving into the houses near the Reno airport, whoever runs the HOA over there, or whatever's going on. Congratulations, you piece of work. You have successfully canceled the Reno Air Races. Now, I'm probably not being nearly as politically correct as I'm sure that the city of Reno would like me to be. If you'd like to take a look, you want to know more information about Reno and why Reno is closing this year. Now, they are still looking for another location in the future, but for this year, this is the last year in Reno. I hope to see you out there. But if you want to know more about this issue over in Reno, our good friend Brian Murray over here said why Reno racing really ended. He does an excellent job of explaining why the Reno Air Races are phasing out. And he does it in a much better job than I could do. I would be very upset telling this story, and he is much more level-headed than I am, so this would be the person to talk to or to review on why the Reno Air Races are being phased out. So, hope to see you at Reno this year. It's going to be a big year. In fact, I heard that the ticket sales, the servers crashed because so many people were interested in buying tickets for Reno this year. Like I said, I hope we all see you out there. Okay, let's roll on into Oshkosh, and that will wrap up the video today. Let's talk about it. Oshkosh, Wisconsin. Folks, if you aren't looking to go to Oshkosh this year, then what are you doing? Get yourself packed, get ready, get in the car, get in the plane, get in the air balloon, and you make your way to Oshkosh. I am very excited this year. They've got an EAA AirVenture runway 5K. I might go out there. We'll see. We'll see if I can run the whole 5K. I'll probably just walk a little bit. But Oshkosh this year, last week of July, it's going to be an outstanding air show. We're looking to have a lot of people. There's supposed to be a lot of people there this year, so we're very interested. Myself, yes, I'm a little biased. I'll admit. I have a few aviators I'm going to see. I specifically would like to see. You go over here to the air show performers who have committed to the Oshkosh Air Show this year, and what I'm interested in is a few names at the bottom. That's right, we're talking about Miss Patty Wagstaff and Scott Yoke. Scooter Yoke is good people. It's not just because he and I have shared some adult beverages. It has nothing to do with that. And his safety officer and narrator, Mr. Dave Mills. See you, Dave. What's up, buddy? Dave and Scott will be at the show this year, and the other person we're looking for, they're good people, by the way, and there's another person I'm looking forward to seeing, Miss Patty Wagstaff, folks, a living legend. If you haven't seen her fly, you're in for a treat. You could say that this is Patty Wagstaff, she is not quite what you would call refined. She is not quite what you would call unrefined. She was the kind of person that keeps a parrot. Fantastic. I love it. If you haven't seen Patty Wagstaff fly, take a moment, treat yourself, and go watch the show. All right, well, enough fanning over Miss Wagstaff. I'm sure she's got plenty of that. Hello. Plenty of fans out there, I'm sure. But we are looking forward to seeing folks at Reno. We're looking forward to seeing folks at Oshkosh. It's supposed to be a big year for some of these air shows, and we are looking forward to it. Now, here at the Aviation Podcast, we are going to monitor closely what it is the FAA is doing. Because right now there may be mixed signals as to what the FAA is doing, where they're going, what they're trying to do. But you know what? We're going to be here giving you as much information as we can so that you can decide for yourself. If you have comments, you have some questions, you have anything you want to share with us, hey, write down in that comment section. We want to hear from you. We want to fly with you. So please engage and join in the discussion. Here at the Aviation Podcast, my name's Ken. We'll see you later.